Hey guys, we're just going to talk about how to glaze a bisque. This is a bisque. It's already been fired. It's hard. It's ready to glaze. And I'm going to show you how to do it properly so it can come out nice and beautiful. So here's the first step that we're going to do. First of all, when you get your piece of, when you get your glaze, it's going to be in a dish like this with the name of your pottery color. It's going to be in this dish, and then we're going to start with the inside first, and then if anyone had a second coat or a second color, we're going to put that color on the outside second. So everyone's going to start with their first color on the inside, 3 coats. So basically, you're not going to see this happen because I'll have this done ahead of time before you come. I have to shake it all up because sometimes if there's crystals in them, make sure I get it all. Sometimes I even have to stir it. This one has already been stirred, so now I just have to make sure I pour it in the dish like this. Looks like there's some crystals in there. So you're all going to get a little amount of like this, and some of you, if you picked similar colors, will be sitting next to each other, so we can all get it done a lot faster. Also, I get new brushes out, not the ones that we've been using for painting, because I like white bristles, and also it makes it easier if you have clean brushes that never had acrylic on them, because this paint is a lot different than your acrylic paint. So you don't want to put too much on your brush, just a little bit like this. Make sure it's not dripping, but you don't want to go too little either, so enough that it's not dripping either. The first thing that we're going to do, we're going to cover the inside only, okay, because a lot of you guys pick 2 colors. So you're going to cover well. This pinch pot is not mine, but I'm using this as an example. So I'm going to paint only on the inside. Now once you start going over an area, don't go over it. Try not to go over the area you just went over. So just go over the areas that are still showing. So I will not go back there unless there's a spot that's like runny or globby. So I'm just going to keep going. Now when I get to the top, I may want to go slower depending where you want your 2 colors to meet. This pot obviously has some jagged edges, so it makes it a little more difficult how to paint this. So I'm going to stop around there. So next time, maybe another day when I do another color, I have to go right next to this color. So again, I'm going over those spots that try not to go over the same spot twice. Also, when you're painting, just take your time. There's no need to rush. And keep in mind, we have to do 3 coats. Now the key, if you don't want your pinch pot to look kind of, if you want the color to cover well, you need to keep in mind, you need to blow dry in between each coat super good. If you don't, it can look kind of blotchy, so you want your color to turn out nice. And don't be scared if you see specks in your clay. Looks like, if you guys can see it here in the video, if you see like, looks like sand, those specks are good because those specks expand when it's been heated. Alright, so here's my first coat, and I have to do 2 more. So that's when you get a hair dryer and you're going to blow dry it. And even if you think it's dry, don't do the second coat, okay? It's not going to work that way. So here's my hair dryer. I'm going to do the second coat, and you have to, before I do the second coat, and then you have to make sure that you blow dry completely. So I'll show you what that looks like. So there should not be any wet spots showing. So I'm going to do this now. Obviously I'm not done, but I wanted to show you. Do you guys see some parts that look dry and some parts that look wet? That needs to be completely dry, because this is dry here, wet here. Technically you're supposed to wait 12 hours in between each coat, but because of time, we kind of have to do it this way. Now, because I'm doing a video, I may have not blow dried as long as I should, but make sure that you're doing that properly. This is just an example. But I'd say for the most part, I got all the parts that I need. So now I do my second coat, and again, take your time, go slow. Fill in any cracks that look white. You gotta fill it all in, not just some of it, or it's not gonna turn out the way you think it might if you don't cover everything completely. Because anything not covered is gonna show, end up white once I take them out of the count again. Now this color, believe it or not, is going to be green when I take it out of the count. This is Padoga green, so I'm sure it'll change colors. Keep in mind, whatever color you think you have, it's not going to look the same when you're painting it. So I'm just going to take my time along the edge and keep painting. And then, same process after I do this coat, you're going to blow dry it and do the third coat. The beautiful thing about a third coat, you do not have to blow dry it. You can let it air dry. So I would, this is my second coat. I'll complete, make sure everything was covered. Then I would blow dry again and then leave the third coat. So, also keep in mind, if you have water at your desk, please make sure you don't put water into the glaze dish because you don't want this to get watery. It already has a good consistency. So make sure that you do not add more water to what needs to be. Most often you'll get a brush that you won't need to wash out, but if you do, please avoid putting any water into the glaze dish. And when you're done, please don't waste it. I don't want this wasted. This stuff's expensive. So you would return this dish to me when you're all done, and I will put it back in the original bottles. Just so you can, another example of a color, you guys see this color with the specks in it. You can see it more clearly than the one I was just using. Remember, this color doesn't look, it's not going to turn out what you think it is. It's going to go from this color after I fire it to this beautiful mixed melon color. So you can see all those crystals expanded, turned color, and even the main color turned a brighter green like the background. So keep in mind those specks are good, and you'll see an amazing result after it's been fired. It may look kind of dull, but it will change. So once you're done with your 3 coats, you're going to wash your brush out with soap and water, and I will probably assign someone to wash the brushes. It doesn't damage the brushes, but they should still be cleaned properly. Also, if you did not finish 3 coats, you need to tell me, because if you did not finish 3 coats, we're going to put a sticker with your pinch pot and remind ourselves how many coats you did that day in case you did not get to your 3 coats that day. The first time that we start glazing, we're not going to start off the outside at first. That'll be for another day. We're going to focus on getting the one color done for now. Okay, this will be for another day, but I wanted to show you now. I'm going to do Starry Night on the outside. If you can see, there's crystals on the bottom, so I have to stir it so I can mix all the crystals. You guys can hear the crunch. That's the crystals I'm moving throughout the glaze to make sure it keeps moving. Because those crystals are really important if you have them. And keep in mind, you'll be using it, you won't be using it out of this dish. I'll be taking it and putting it in another dish. So it looks like I got all the crystals on the bottom, most of them. Still hear a little bit of crunch. Alright, I wanted to show you something quickly when you start the outside coat. So this is going to turn a nice royal blue color with yellow specks. It's like Starry Night. Kind of reminds me of Vincent van Gogh. So basically, when you're ready for your next coat, you're going to apply slowly and not too much on your brush. You go, try not to go on top of the color you just did, but go right next to the color you just had. So I don't want them really to overlap, but I do want them to touch so I don't have white spots in between. Again, it's not my pinch pot. I'm having a little bit hard time trying to paint around these jagged edges, but when it's all painted and nice, it'll look really pretty. So this is the part you probably want to go slow at. Remember, cover all of these parts. Now after you do that, here's the important part I want you to make sure you keep in mind when you get to the bottom. When your pottery is cooking, it has to have room to breathe, so you only paint along the edges and you leave the bottom. So I'm painting the edges so I don't still see white stuff on the side when I'm painting, but just I'm painting a little bit on the bottom, just like a circle, and so you can still see your name. The pottery has to breathe when it's being fired, so please do not paint the bottom of the pinch pot. So I'm just going to continue painting the same process. 1 coat, blow dry, 2 coat, then blow dry, 3rd coat, and then I don't have to blow dry, just let it dry naturally. I'm just going to keep painting all around, and then I'll come back to you when I'm done. So once you get most of your pinch pot painted, handle it carefully. Just raise your hand and I'll come get it, because the less touching it has after being painted, the better. And even when you're carrying it to and from the hairdryer, take it carefully. It can still break if it falls on the floor, and just maybe carry it like this so you're not touching the sides that you painted. So once you're done painting, I'll be cooking it in the near future, and then it'll turn out really beautiful, shiny, and also a different color. So when you guys are all done, I'll be putting the excess paint back into the bottles and saving it all. This stuff's expensive, so I don't want to waste it. So please keep in mind, that's why everything will be labeled and brought back to me when you're all done. Now, I only have a few hair dryers. Keep in mind, there's going to probably be one out in the hallway, one in the classroom. So you're going to have to be patient and wait your turn when we're all trying to blow dry our pinch pots. So if you think that the line's too big, just wait in your seat until the line seems to die down and watch the video I have on until you're ready. Because if you have too many hair dryers plugged in near one room, then sometimes you can have sometimes you can blow a fuse if you have too many things plugged in at once, especially with that much power. If some of you guys are unsure how to use a hair dryer, they're all different, but I'll show you this example because some of you guys may have never used a hair dryer. So basically, you should probably have it setting up on hot, and then also it's off down here, so you just kind of have to push up or push to high if you like. It may go faster. And another tip is when you're blow drying, never put it inside or close enough to the pinch pot. That can cause, that's hard on the hair dryer, hard on your pottery, and plus it's not healthy to do that kind of thing because sometimes there's a smell when you put things too close together. So make sure that you have it at a safe distance when you're blow drying your pinch pot. It doesn't have to be touching or that close. So about this distance.